Hey, okay, so I wanted to tell you guys about this experience and then answer a question I had in the comments. A guy asked if my Spanish was self-taught. I took Spanish since I have been taking Spanish since I was 11 and at a magnet school, and just through the years I've had progressively gotten better. I should be way better than I am now, but as I kind of forgot some of it, and as I became an adult, I'm like, okay, I need to really step it up. So I read books, I watch movies, I listen to music. And right now I'm trying to get certificate. I'm trying to get like certified in really high level Spanish. I'm at about a B2, which highest is C2, which is native. So I'm like upper intermediate, I would say, technically speaking, right? I can have a conversational. B2 is a really good level to be at, because you can basically interact with people on any level, have conversations, get your point across. Now, my prepositions are a little bit out of place sometimes. My conjugations aren't always right, but I'm trying to really get to a level where I can talk about sophisticated things like philosophy and science and all this stuff in Spanish. So that's why I'm taking these classes online now. So it can get kind of pricey. I'll put the classes in the links if you guys are interested, if you guys want to learn a language or whatever. But anyway, it was funny. I had to tell you guys this today because today's subject was on climate change. And it mentioned, it was like the extinction of species, but it mentioned climate change in the lesson, right? And I wanted to say so bad, I wanted to be like, that's mierda, like that's bullshit, like todo de mierda. I wanted to be like, that's some bullshit, but I didn't. I was nice, but I was just like, yeah, and mind you, we have to speak Spanish, or we should be speaking Spanish throughout the class. So I was like, yeah, I don't believe the whole theory of climate change. And then there was another student in the classroom, man, she got hot. It was so funny. And she's like, oh, well, there's a consensus. And she was like, yeah, 97% of scientists. I was like, ¿cómo se dice soundbite? Soundbite. Right? I was like, soundbite. How do you say that in Spanish? Hello? Because that's what it is. It's not true. And then they were like, oh, well, she was like, you should read Google scientific articles. And I was like, yeah, I don't trust Google. So I won't be reading those articles unless I'm going to compare them to other alternative information. And then the teacher got mad and he chimed in. He's like, oh, yeah, but, I have friends that work, and this is all in Spanish, by the way. But he's like, I have friends that work in environmental, sciences, and I was like, I have friends that work in environmental, situations too, and they don't believe the whole story. And I'm just because, there's a consensus on something doesn't mean it's true. You can have one person that knows the truth and a bunch of people that repeat the lie. And they both were just like, and then the teacher so then she like got up and she was like looking up shit, and she was like, oh yeah, well, I was like, well, how about the two founders of Greenpeace, or Bjorn Lomborg and I think Patrick Moore, who came out and was like, they don't believe all of the full story on climate change. And then there was and she was like, oh yeah, but there's a Nobel laureate that talks about climate change. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, because there's a Nobel laureate that I know that thinks climate change is bullshit. So we just it was really awkward, but it also was one of the best classes I've ever had, because I learned a lot of words, and it's kind of breaking me out of this like shell of like arguing with people over complex subjects. And the thing is, I notice about living in another country, being a language teacher, is that you're easily brainwashed in another language, if that makes sense. Because if you don't agree with somebody and you can't really express yourself in that language, you're most likely gonna back down because you don't want to look stupid and you can't express yourself. So another way, like with Bill Gates has his kind of like Pearson education, and they have a lot of influence in the curriculums that they write. Even when I was teaching TOEFL material to other people, for English tests, they would all put this fucking propaganda in. And I thought at the time, naive little me, The second year I was living in Taiwan, I actually taught at a school that taught adults online, and I thought that I could change things by applying to get a job to help write the curriculum. Well, the program is so deep that they don't even let alternative ideas flourish with the curriculum, because I would try and bring up some of these ideas. Okay, well, if we're going to have a debate, if we're going to talk about controversial subjects, why don't we represent the other side as well and let people choose? And that just wasn't accepted. So that kind of like honestly was my last straw with trying to teach in a conventional environment. And well, I guess I thought at the time it wasn't so conventional because I'm like, oh, I'm in another country. Oh, I'm not in America, because I first started teaching in America, went to another country, thought I can get away from that. Came back here, taught at a private school, thought I can get away from that. It's still the same shit. Even if you go to a private school, they might be getting certain level of education, but the propaganda is still the same. And if it's not challenged, people are going to absorb it and just regurgitate it. And this bitch had the nerve to be like, 97% of scientists. I was like, that's some bull. I wanted to be, I didn't. Of course, you got to be professional and nice. But I wanted to be like, that's some bullshit. Really? I was just like, soundbite. No, it's not true. And she was like, you should read scientific art. I was like, bitch, I read scientific, like, you should read some scientific articles instead of just repeating what you hear on TV. And she was Canadian, of course, and she was like, oh, well, only like Canada or North America have those views on climate change. I was like, that's some bullshit, because there are people in India and Africa and other third world countries that really don't vibe with that, because they're using that as an excuse to keep them behind, and they want to progress via technology. And this climate change thing is a way that they're using to keep them back and seeing that they can't, because they want to reduce carbon emissions. So I can't really, honestly, I can't debate climate change the way that I can like debate vaccines, because I just spend so much time on vaccine and the medical establishment material, and I'm reading up on that almost every day. So I'm always keeping up with it. But I know just the simple fact that you can't even like question climate change is just very suspicious to me. And she got so mad that she started talking to me in English, and I was like, en español, por favor, español. And she was like, oh, it's so funny. But I learned a lot of words, and I was like, how do you say, let's just agree to disagree in Spanish? Because that's what it had to come down to. And then I kept saying that. I kept saying the phrase, I forgot, I don't think I have it in front of me. It's like, de acuerdo de, I forgot. Vamos desacuerdo, or something like that. I know I'm saying it wrong, but I was trying to say that shit. But then they kept talking. I was like, can we just move on? I'm like, you're not going to change my mind. I'm like, I need more data, and I need more than your condescending, your statements of telling me that I should believe it because you say the statistics prove so, and because you say that 97% of scientists agree, and because you say you have friends that work in other countries that, and I was like, well, I do too. What you think? They just think, just like those people, they just think that I just get my shit from random places that I make shit up, that I don't use common sense. But it was actually a really good class, and now though I'm probably marked, but I'm a customer, so they're really gonna have to hate me. And I bet you, she's hot, she's livid. I'm actually happy just because I got into their skin. I didn't mean to really get into their skin, but at the same time, I was just like, you know what? I really want to understand. I really want to learn how to debate in another language, because language is very powerful in the sense too, you don't get these ideas out into the ether. Maybe the other guy, he wasn't as heated as she was. The teacher wasn't as heated. He was like, oh, I'll look into that. And maybe he will. Maybe, because she was telling me to look up stuff. I was like, oh yeah, well, why don't you look up my stuff too? And then they were like, oh, well, okay. Which I don't know if they're going to do, but maybe they will. You never know. You never know. You always gotta, this is my philosophy that I kind of live by now. You never know what seed you're going to plant and where you're going to plant it. founder of the co-founder of the channel, April, was saying that she had actually had somebody write back to her and tell her that she got her to change her mind on vaccines. And it wasn't even anything that she said to her directly. It was somebody that was actually reading her response to someone else in a comment that said that she was staunchly pro-vax, and just the way that she broke things down and how thorough she was with her information actually made her question things and start looking into it herself. And she actually just dove down that rabbit hole, I guess, and now she doesn't vaccinate. So you never know if you can. I mean, I understand that some people are in a position where they don't want to lose jobs or they don't want to make things awkward in certain situations. But if you can just wiggle in a little bit of ideas, just get that in, just, you know, at least challenge things, get people to question things. You never know who you might affect. So anyway, that's my story for today, y'all. I'll be putting those language schools in the comments. Let me know if you want me to do a video on language learning. Actually, I might do one anyway, even if you want me to or not, because that was actually part of my waking up process too. It was between vaccines and the pharmaceutical industry and how corrupt that was, and the education system and how corrupt that was, and how it's being used as a tool to brainwash people. And I come from a family of teachers too, so yeah, that's kind of like, anyway. All right, that's it, y'all. Peace and love. Bye-bye. Mwah.